from Stanford, David Shaw. Good to see you, sir. How are you?
I'm great. Can't wait for tonight.
I know. I mean, we were just talking about it in the commercial break. This is lit. This town is just lit right now.
It's out of control. People are coming in from everywhere. Everybody's having a great time. The hospitality has been off the charts.
It has been
awesome.
And then, you and I, we were broadcasting from the makeshift set that they created to look like an extension of Tootsie's on Broadway. And just looking down the street, it's amazing. It's just truly amazing.
The people are flocking in. I think the NFL has done an unbelievable job of promoting this entire event. It's gotten bigger and better every single year.
It has. All right, let's get into the evening. Do you think Kyler Murray goes first?
It's the only thing that makes sense for all the moves that they made up until this point.
Right.
Excluding drafting Josh Rosen last year. Everything else they've done since then would lead you to believe that this is the thing that makes sense from hiring the coach that they hired, bringing in the philosophy, and this quarterback seems to fit exactly what they want to do on offense.
And then what they've done since the combine, like I know you need to be coy in case you get that Godfather offer that you can't refuse for the first overall pick, and you do need to, I understand, make it seem like you would take that guy to try and get somebody to get up there. But you also have to know, if you're evaluating, that certain systems and certain coaches, they're never going to go up and get this guy because of his literal stature, not his figurative stature in his tape. So that's kind of the head scratcher if they maneuver all this way and then don't take him first overall.
There would have to be a very powerful voice somewhere in that organization that would have had to convince pretty much everybody else that this is not the thing to do, that we should do something else. So we have to believe in Josh Rosen and the other combination of weapons that we have on the offensive side. Maybe we need to take Bosa, we need to take somebody else, but I think that would be shocking at this point.
Knowing Rosen as you do, obviously having competed against him, how do you he hasn't said a single thing other than just putting out a video of him and his buddies where he does speak from the heart about how annoying this has been. But how do you think he would handle it if they come to him and just say, look, we told you at the Combine you were our guy personally, but sorry about the last 2.5 months. How do you think he would handle that, do you think?
Knowing Josh as I do know, going all the way back to recruiting him, I think he's shown unbelievable restraint. He's been one of the most outspoken guys in college football in the beginning of his NFL career, and realizing that this is a job and he's got a persona that he's been trying to change to a certain degree. He believes in himself 100%, as a lot of people do, that he is going to be a very good NFL quarterback. And if it's in Arizona, great. If it's not, it's going to be someplace else. And all the reports you hear from him showing up every single day, working extremely hard, learning the offense, being a leader on the field for those guys. He's done everything that he needs to do, and now the things that other people have to do, let them do that. And if he has to stay in Arizona, okay, great. But it's not going to be very long if they take Kyler Murray, but he's going to go someplace else. So I think he's got a very good bead on what it takes to be professional right now, which is show up and do your job.
Now all that said, though, I mean, he's still a human being. And, I've heard stories about how quarterbacks they're like elephants. Their memories it never dies. I mean,
there's no question about it. And this kid's in that category. Don't think he doesn't have a huge chip on his shoulder anyway for all the guys who were drafted in front of him anyway. Right. He remembers all those guys.
Didn't he say that all the teams made 9 mistakes in front of him?
Yes.
He said that last year?
Yes. Right. Which may or may not be true. But the most important thing, though, that you're alluding to is he's got the edge. He's got a chip on his shoulder no matter what they do, whether he stays in Arizona or not.
Right.
This kid's already got a chip on his shoulder. He's dying to prove his ability not just to survive in this game. He thinks he's going to be one of the best. That's what he has in his mind. It's just who's going to give him that opportunity. Is it Arizona or is it someplace else?
And having sat next to you now for 8 years, and I'm kind of get an idea of the way your mind thinks, David Shaw. You like Rosen and are a little bit confused why they would move on from him after taking him. Am I putting words in your mouth, or do you believe that?
No, I understand, and I'd like to remind people, and I did 9 years in the NFL before I came back to college.
Oh, yes.
And you make organizational decisions. And when you make an organizational decision like this franchise has made in hiring the head coach that they hired, you can't worry about what happened before that. So you can't worry that you took a quarterback in the first round last year. If you've made an organizational decision to change how you're going to play this offense and you want a specific type of guy to play quarterback there, then you don't worry about what you did last year. Now, I can't say that that's completely happened, but by all accounts, that is what happened. They've made an organizational decision to play a certain style of offense, and this quarterback, like it or not, his stature, whatever, he has proven that he can play in this offense at an extremely high level. So it would be shocking to me if they went down this road with the head coach and the philosophy and then all of a sudden changed at the last minute.
So what was the diciest decision in a draft room that you were witness to in your years in the NFL that might even be remotely similar to something like this, where the organization has to sit down and say, do we really want to do this? And we have to explain it to player X if we do. Do you recall?
So I think it's been long enough for me to actually tell the story publicly now.
I love when stories begin that way. I'll be very honest with you, David Shaw.
Because God bless Al Davis. I miss him all the time. I think he's a special, special human being and a brilliant man in his role. But we had a long 3-week discussion about Sebastian Janikowski. Do we need a receiver? Do we need an offensive lineman? Or do we need a kicker? And to take a kicker in the first round, and that takes it takes the owner to walk in and say, we're taking a kicker in the first round. That's what it takes. And that's what we had. And we were split as an organization. There was a lot of discussion back and forth. But Al Davis, the boss, set the tempo, and we ended up taking a Hall of Fame kicker. That was outstanding. He was a phenomenal pick. As hard as it was at the time, we were making a decision to play field position. We had a guy that was going to kick the ball out of the back of the end zone almost every single kick, and he was going to make 50-yard-plus field goals like they were chip shots, and then taking Shane Leckler later in the draft, who was going to help also dominate field position with the way that he punted the ball. So we had 2 guys that changed field position. Once again, it's hard for a head coach or a position coach to make that decision. The owner has to say, this is how we're going to play. And we made those 2 picks work, and those 2 guys came in and were outstanding. I think they should both be Hall of Famers.
Well, I mean, Leckler just retired, and I think, Seabass is just about to, I think, as well. So that's how long that they did last. Can you give me any glimpse of what the conversation was like in the room for something like that? With Al Davis at the front of it? I mean, my gosh.
Oh, the room got warm a couple times. Because here we were with Coach Gruden. We came in and took over a 4-12 team that needed a lot of positions, needed a lot of change. We needed to score more points. We had Tim Brown that we thought could still play at a high level. We knew we needed a quarterback. Thankfully, we went and got Rich Gannon, which was outstanding. But we needed a lot of things. And to sit there on a 4-12 team to say, gosh, we need a kicker. That was a hard thing to take for a lot of scouts and a lot of coaches to say, we need so many other things other than this kicker. But right. Al Davis in his foresight said, there hasn't been a kicker like this ever. There's never been a guy like this. He's 260 pounds that likes to hang out on Bourbon Street and come in and just bomb kickoffs and bomb field goals.
Just kick, baby.
This is like the perfect Oakland Raider ever. And he said, we cannot pass up this opportunity to take a guy that might be one of the best ever to play the position. I don't care if it's kicker or not. We're going to take him.
Coach David Shaw of Stanford here on the Rich Eisen Show. Again, he'll be part of the NFL Network first-round coverage tonight, 8 Eastern Time, 7 o'clock straight up here in Nashville. And now here's Gruden, Raider coach again. Our guy, Mike Mayock, is his general manager sitting in the room. And the amount of chatter I'm hearing that they have pushed Haskins and or Murray up their draft board. Do you believe that they're going to go quarterback, knowing Gruden as you do? Antonio Brown just came. Would they really go and take a rookie quarterback first overall for them, 4th overall, do you think?
Well, first of all, Mr. Davis would be so proud that there's this much chatter about what the Oakland Raiders are going to do.
Okay, that's good.
That there's this much intrigue. Right? Absolutely. There's this much intrigue and this much, what are these guys going to do when they have all these first-round picks? They're going to trade up, trade back, take a quarterback. What are they going to do with Derek Carr? Al Davis would love this confusion that's around what they're doing. So kudos to those guys. And beyond that, I wouldn't put it past them. Honestly, I wouldn't put it past him. I think there's a lot of great feelings for Derek Carr and what he's been able to do. And the kid's played at a high level also. This is not a bad quarterback they're talking about. This guy's a good quarterback. Right. He's athletic. He's smart. He looks like a great fit for John Gruden's type of an offense. But that's not saying that this wouldn't happen. So I think that's where pushing the scouts out and trying to keep the chatter out and really making this a 2-man show between Mayock and Gruden. There's really no telling what they're going to do, but I would not be shocked because, once again, John Gruden's got a long-term contract.
He does.
He's thinking more than about the next 5 minutes. He's thinking about how we're going to finish out this time in Oakland, how we're going to start our time in Las Vegas. He's thinking more like management and ownership as well as the head coach. So this pick, whatever it's going to be, I believe it's going to be a long-term pick.
Well, let's extrapolate this out a little bit more then. So the sense that Gruden does not like young quarterbacks. He only wants to work with veterans. Is that fallacious? Is that accurate? What would you describe
that is a moniker that John actually hates. He really hates that. What John likes is quarterbacks that grow and listen and do what they're supposed to and play the position at a high level, and a guy that doesn't mind being pushed. And a lot of young quarterbacks, you kind of have to use kid gloves a little bit to kind of help them grow.
Right.
John doesn't own kid gloves. He doesn't even know what those things are. John, when you walk in the door, you are going to get pushed. And John wants to push you and push you and push you. And you engage with that and you accept that and
right.
you take the challenge on that. Because people said that, but then I think he started Gronkowski young at Tampa. He was kind of a guy. He was a tough guy. He was a smart guy. John could push him hard, and he would respond and play well. So that moniker that John's been labeled with, I know he hates it, and I know why. Because he just says, I want whoever's going to play this game at a high level, that's who I want.
Okay, so let's say he does choose Murray or Haskins. They'd have to play him now, because if he is talking about finishing up Oakland and starting off well in Vegas, they're not going to just throw a rookie out there and hope that he's Pat Mahomes after a year of seasoning on the sideline, right? I mean, they're going to have to get him up to speed and get him going with Mr. Big Chest and figuring out how it's going to work when
Which
it's
I
all
love
said
that you
and done.
say that, by the way.
By the way, that's the only way to refer to him is Mr. Big Chest. That's what he said to call him, so I do what Antonio Brown says. And if you're out there on Instagram Live, what's up, AB? So what do you think if they do something like that?
So here's the most interesting thing to me. Different than the Arizona situation where you'll be drafting a quarterback that's so vastly different from the one that you have. They're so night and day. If you took one of those two quarterbacks, you're talking about guys that have been efficient in the pocket who can, not everybody can run like Kyler Murray, but I think Haskins has been mislabeled as a statue. This guy moves just well enough to in the pocket, much like a Derek Carr. So these two guys, if you took one of these two guys and you kept Derek Carr, there's a chance Derek Carr could still be the starter as you train and groom another young man, much like Patrick Mahomes, much like they did in Green Bay, much like he's done around the league. So it wouldn't have to play two completely different offenses. Derek Carr can go there and play great with one of these guys learning behind him. So
before I let you go, and Daniel Jeremiah, who is going to be, again, sitting at the end of the set that we're hanging out on in the NFL Network, of first-round coverage, 8 Eastern time tonight. Who's the one guy that you see that if you were in a draft room again, you'd be pounding the table, you've fallen in love with, even if you don't have a shot to go get that person? Who's the one in the draft that you've looked at and you go, that's the one, I love this?
There are a few, but there's one guy that I just can't stop thinking about, and that's Christian Wilkins at Clemson. Here's a guy with a big personality. He's big, he's strong, he's quick, he's athletic. He's got great leadership ability. Graduated from Clemson in 3 years and working on a second degree. He's one of these guys that seems to have life figured out. You're not taking a young guy that has to learn what to do. This he can play the game at a high level, but you also have to worry about him off the field. I think this guy's going to be a mainstay. He's going to be the key to somebody's success down the road.
And then to bring this all full circle, we buried the lead because you led with this when I sat down next to you at our dress rehearsal when we first saw each other here in Nashville for this draft week. You turned to me and you said to me that you had what for me?
I got a punter for you.
Attaboy. Yes, you do. And the punter you have for me in the draft is, what's the name of this gentleman?
Jake Bailey. Jake Bailey's from Southern California. Just like we talked about when we were talking about Al Davis and deciding to play this field position game.
Yes, sir.
Jake Bailey is one of the best kickoff artists coming out of college football.
By the way, thank you for calling him an artist.
Yes.
Because kickers are artists, too.
It is an art.
David
it is
Shaw.
A skill.
Yes, it is.
It is a weapon.
You go, coach.
It is a weapon. And what Jake was able to do as a kickoff artist, kicking the ball down the field, kicking out of the back of the end zone, making people start, not giving those great kickoff returns that pop up in the NFL periodically. Don't give those guys a chance to influence the game.
Yes.
And then beyond that, was an outstanding, and it's one of the things that I know Al Davis would love, outstanding, put the ball inside the 10, inside the 5-yard line, changing field position in one of the big punts of the game of the year. Jake didn't have his best game in the bowl game, but to come back just when we needed it to pin the offense back inside their 5-yard line in the fourth quarter, that's game over. You've got a guy that can flip field position like that, just like we talk about receivers that can change field position.
Yeah.
We got punters that can change field position.
I just love your passion. I can hear it in your voice.
It's football. It's real football. And,
yes, it is.
And Jake, I think, is highly coveted by a lot of teams. I don't know how high you take
where do you think? Where would you? We're going to hear his name tomorrow night, maybe on third round.
I wouldn't say that. I would say somewhere around. I've heard a lot of fifth round, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody tried to take him a little earlier because that position is that important.
Okay, great to see you. I'm really excited to be sitting next to you again on draft night, looking down at your handwritten notes on your iPad. That's I've never really seen that. So you sit at your desk and you write everything out, and then what? And then you send it to somebody who puts it on your iPad?
No, I write it all on the iPad. It's up in the cloud, so if I ever lose my iPad, I can just plug back in and get it all back there. So I have all my stuff dating back to our first draft in 2011.
No kidding.
Absolutely, got it all.
And you write notes about what I do? Do you evaluate me too?
Always. I'm always looking at you.
Now I'm nervous about tonight. David Shaw of Stanford, a man who I love to sit next to, and who will absolutely give my children a letter of intent tomorrow, right? For what, the class of 2025 and 27?
It's in the mail right now.
Okay. My kid turned to me the other day. He said, I want to go to Stanford. I'm like, not the way you do your homework.
Wow.
No, I'm not putting him on the crew team, if you know what I mean.
You're taking shots.
Trying to get him to Stanford that way. That ain't happening. Great to see you, David Shaw.
Thanks, Rich.
Okay, Daniel Jeremiah, when we come back here live on The Rich Eisen Show.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.